Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this is for the week of Monday, February 12th, all the way through Sunday, February 18th of 2018. And this week is a big week in the astrology because we have a new moon and also a partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius that's coming exact on Thursday this week. And so this is a huge, major reset in a lot of our lives in certain areas, especially for people who have a lot of energy, a lot of planets in the fixed signs. So that would be Aquarius, Leo in particular. Those two are going to be feeling this most strongly. And then also Scorpio and Taurus, because this eclipse will be in square with, your sun, moon, rising, your personal planets, whatever it is that you have going on in those areas of your chart. And so I highly recommend hopping onto astro.com and typing in your birth information and figuring out where all of your planets are placed so you can get a better feel for, how this is going to affect you and whether this is going to be a really strong eclipse for you or if this is going to be a weaker eclipse. And I'm going to be getting into some of the specifics about what this is going to be bringing sort of more generally. So, maybe listen to that before you skip ahead to your sign and all of that. And then I'll be going into each sign and talking about the energy for the week ahead. And if you want to keep up with the astrology as it happens each week and, get into some of my other videos that I will be starting to post over the course of the next couple of months. I'm just waiting, to finish up some other projects and a lot of readings and all of that. But then I'm going to be getting into doing some interviews and some other interesting videos on different topics in astrology and things of that nature. So, subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up to date with the latest and if you want to get notifications about your weekly forecasts and all of that. And you can also hop onto my Facebook page too, because I'm going to be starting live Q&A sessions probably once a month on the Facebook page. So if you have specific questions about your chart or about astrology in general, I'm going to hop on there and I'm going to be answering some questions, and I'll post ahead of time what the date's going to be for that and the time. So that way you guys can join me live. So for this week, we have, of course, the big solar eclipse. This eclipse is actually going to be kind of a weak eclipse, especially for people that don't have a lot of planets like sun, moon, and rising in particular at the end degrees of the fixed signs that I mentioned, which again are, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus. Those signs are going to feel it a little bit more so than the other signs, especially if your planets are placed at the end degrees of that sign. For everybody else, this is going to be a little bit of a weaker sort of eclipse. If you did have a lot of turbulence or a lot of change, upheaval, big transformations that came about during the eclipse that happened in the summer on August 21st of 2017, that Leo solar eclipse, this energy is actually going to be reminiscent of that eclipse, but it's going to be almost like opposite, like it's flipped around. It's bringing you back into balance, which we talked about a little bit in the video about 2 weeks ago about the lunar eclipse that just happened in Leo. That was sort of a culmination point and a coming back into balance from that eclipse that happened, in Leo in the summer. And this is sort of a similar energy, but this is more about releasing the old and forming or making space for new beginnings, for new energy to come in and to take hold. And when we have a lunar eclipse conjunct the south node, it's always about surrender. It's always about letting go. It's about reflecting back on the past, right? Because the south node in the chart, it represents our past life experience, our past experiences in this lifetime. It represents sort of the gifts that we bring into this lifetime, and it also represents an area where we feel unsatisfied because this isn't really where we're here to sort of settle and stick around. We're really here to move into our destiny, which is more representative of the area that the north node hits in our chart. And by transit, it's a similar energy. So it's causing us to reset and let go of all of the stuff and all of the baggage, all of the old sort of dogmatic beliefs that we carry, all of the old sort of feelings where we care too much about what other people think about what we're doing in this area of our lives. And we'll get into the area of your life that's going to be affected by this when we get into the signs. But in general, the South Node in Aquarius and these eclipses in Aquarius in particular are a process of letting go of caring too much about what other people think about what we're doing, letting go of this sort of voyeuristic, detached sort of way of interrelating with other people that's become very common in our society with social social media and, text messaging and things of that nature, where we want to know what everybody else is doing. We want to sort of watch them in this voyeuristic sort of way, but we don't necessarily want other people to see us truly and fully. We only want them to see a certain version of us. And that's not truthful. That's not authentic. So there's a lot less heartfelt connection going on in this day and age than there used to be. And there's a lot less personal connection and connecting one-on-one in a heartfelt way and in a very sort of real, more traditional sense. And so we're moving out of this voyeuristic, detached way of gathering information about other people, about, the world at large, the world around us. And we're coming into a more experiential mode of interacting and engaging with other people, where we're connecting authentically from the heart. And it takes a lot of courage to do that, right? It takes courage to share yourself and to be vulnerable with other people. It takes courage to actually show up and be authentic and be who you are out in the world, especially these days where we see everybody, on social media showing up so perfectly, right? Everybody has their hair and makeup done all perfect. Everybody's just showing the good stuff that goes on in their lives. They're picking the best photos of themselves, the best photo ops, Snapchatting their like fancy dinners. So it seems like everybody's all like rich, going out, doing all these crazy adventures, but really we're only seeing a very small portion of, the lives of our friends and family members. So we're keeping more connected with the people that we sort of meet along the way as we go through our path in life. But we're getting this impression that everybody is, wonderful and glorious, and it's a very strange thing. And also, we're doing this thing where we don't want people to see us either. So that's sort of what the South Node, to me, represents in Aquarius. We're letting go of that. We're connecting in a way that's more heartfelt. Even Facebook more recently has changed its algorithms in a way that people are kind of mad about. And me having a small business and having a lot of content that I post on Facebook, it's kind of detrimental to me. But at the same time, the fact that they're changing the algorithm, so you see more of people's personal posts, right? They're more photographs of their lives and the things they're doing, the things they're sharing that are more personal to them. That's what they're sort of changing the algorithms to highlight more so than business posts and, news stories and things like that. And I think that's very much a sign of the times, right? With the North Node being the sign of Leo, connecting more authentically, connecting in a way that at least on the surface seems more heartfelt, right? Even through social media. So it's coming back into balance in these areas where it's not so voyeuristic, it's not so detached, and we're connecting more in a more raw and more real way. And even with doing things like Facebook Live and having YouTube live sessions where people can chat in real time. So you're connecting with people a little bit more realistically, not the same as connecting traditionally, but there's a bigger pull to connect with people more in real life, I feel. And there will be, and it'll continue to be that way. The other things too are letting go of, dogma and dogmatic belief systems, especially surrounding politics and surrounding religion and surrounding science, especially because science in this day and age has become very dogmatic. And so these are sort of the general themes, right, that are more collective that we're seeing and that we're sort of cultivating throughout this time period, which really began last year, I believe in February. I'll have to double check the dates on that, but it was at the beginning of 2017 that this really started to take hold. And, the first big push of this energy was actually in, August of 2017 when we had that total solar eclipse, which was huge. And it was very transformational for a lot of people, especially if it was prominently placed in your birth chart. This is life-changing for a lot of people. And even the aftermath of this was life-changing on a global scale and on a more collective scale for large groups of people, especially, in the North American region. I know in India and some other countries, they were having flooding and different sort of catastrophic events, but the eclipse was visible in the United States primarily, and so that's where it was felt the most. And so after that eclipse, right, we had earthquakes, we had wildfires, we had hurricanes like we've never seen before. People were displaced, they were losing their homes, they were losing everything that they held dear. And it was not an easy time for a lot of people. And I have even worked with clients who are for relocation, who've been displaced by various hurricanes and natural disasters throughout this time period. So, it's starting to hit closer to home for a lot of people. And that's not to say that this is going to bring up the same thing, but it could bring up a similar energy, or it could bring up an energy that is reminiscent of that. I do think if something comes up, it's going to be more based in the United States, even though this is this eclipse is only visible, I think, in Antarctica. It might be visible in some other places just slightly. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it looks like on the map that it's just Antarctica, and it's a very small solar eclipse anyway. It's a partial solar eclipse. The conjunction to the south node is very wide, which means that the eclipse is not going to be exact by any means. So it'll just feel like a little sliver of the sun that's being eclipsed rather than the whole total eclipse that we had in August. And so, because it is in exact opposition almost by 1 degree off in an exact opposition to the eclipse that happened on August 21st, I do think that there's going to be an energy that's sort of like a coming back into balance, a release, a letting go, a surrender. And there could be sort of those same themes that come up this time around, but I don't think it's going to be as strong. And I think it's a little bit more like ethereal, a little bit more otherworldly. It feels that way coming into this week. And, the energy of the South Node is about, spirituality. It's about other worlds, other realms. It's about our past lives, our past experiences. It's, if you look at Vedic astrology, Rahu and Ketu, right? Rahu is the dragon's head and Ketu is the dragon's body without the head. So it's like a headless dragon floating around trying to feel its way through this reality without a rational, logical, linear mind to help it sort of navigate, right? So we're talking about this headless dragon that can't see things clearly. So when we have the South Node involved in an eclipse, things get very foggy and very confusing. It's very Neptunian. And the energy this week in general is very Neptunian. And so even though the eclipse is conjunct Mercury, which is the planet that's associated with the mind, with intelligence, and it's in the sign of Aquarius, which is very strong, right? Mercury in Aquarius highlights our higher mind. It's divine inspiration, it's innovation, it's thinking, in flashes of insight, bursts of information. Even though that's there, the South Node makes things confusing and sort of turbulent in a way that's there's something, it feels like there's something going on in the ethers, right? It feels like there's something going on beneath the surface. And there's a lot of Neptunian energy coming up this week, too, Piscean energy with first and foremost, we just had, as I'm saying this today, I think actually right now, exact in this moment, we have Venus moving into the sign of Pisces, right? So we become less clear on our relationships. We want to just sort of melt into our relationships. We want to sort of merge our souls with the souls of our loved ones. And we want to see everyone for their best selves in this idealistic light. And so we put on these rose-colored glasses when it comes to our relationships, which can be fun. We can escape into our relationships. We can escape through relationships from whatever is going on the outside. But this is an energy that can be very foggy and very confusing to sort of navigate when it comes to our relationships. So relationships become a little confused, but they feel good, right? They feel good. They feel like mystical and magical. And, for the most part, as I mentioned, I think last week, Venus does well in Pisces because, it is about sort of getting that soul connection, that deep connection, that depth and that intensity with your partner where it's just beautiful and magical and everything feels all fantastical and wonderful and dreamy. And, so that is a nice energy. But the beginning of this week, we have the dark moon, right? So we have this sort of, first we start off the week with this Piscean energy coming in through Venus. And then we have the dark moon in Capricorn. And then the moon is pretty much dark the entire first half of the week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the beginning of the week is a little bit intense because the moon conjuncts Pluto. So there's a lot of intensity to the start of our work week. And, that happens in the middle of the morning on Monday. And then we come into Tuesday when we have the moon actually shifting into the sign of Aquarius. So on Tuesday, we start to feel the new moon, the solar eclipse energy starting to brew. And so we're going inward, right, during the dark moon. That's what we should be doing. It's about introspection. It's about taking time away from the world. It's about going inward and looking at ourselves, looking at what we need to release and let go of, because this is a time of purging and letting go and surrender. And this whole week, especially the first half of this week, is all about surrender, letting go, getting rid of old attachments that are not serving us anymore and that are just wasting space and bogging us down, and looking at where we feel unsatisfied in the area of life that is representative of this new moon and this eclipse, which we'll get into those areas of life and which sign is going to be affected in what area. But in general, it's looking at our dissatisfaction in that area and how we can deal with it and what we need to release and let go of in order to make room for something more satisfying, right? Because when we're talking about the South Node, there's a sense of dissatisfaction no matter how good you have it, no matter how comfortable it is, because the South Node can feel very comfortable but very unsatisfying at the same time. And the reason that it feels that way is because it's meant to compel us to go in the opposite direction, right? We can use the gifts and we need to sort of go back to our sort of home energy and the energy that feels comfortable from time to time. There's always a push and pull between these two energies of North and South Node throughout the lifetime and throughout these transits as well. So we need to go back to what feels comfortable from time to time, but we can't dwell there and we can't stay there. And that's why we feel dissatisfied, because really what that sense of dissatisfaction, that sense of like something is amiss, something is wrong, we're not doing something right, it's meant to guide us into our true path, our true destiny, which is represented by the North Node in our chart. And right now the North Node is in Leo, right? So it's going back to more traditional ways of doing things and connecting with people in particular and expressing ourselves creatively in more traditional means. And yeah, so there's a lot of interesting energy this week. So we come into that new moon, that eclipse energy, and it is actually really nicely supported. You know, there's a conjunction with Mercury, so that helps us to sort of be a little bit more discerning, even though it will be confusing. We won't have the whole picture right away. We'll think that we know, right? We'll want to analyze it. We'll want to overthink it. It'll be a lot of energy around communication, around our thoughts, you know, around the way that we articulate our thoughts to other people, all these new ideas coming in, these new flashes of insight and inspiration, because this will also be in a nice sextile with Uranus, which is the planet of change and transformation and upheaval, disruption, but it also brings divine inspiration. It brings divine insight. It brings downloads and sort of shocking new revelations. And in a sextile, it's a very positive energy, so it helps us along. So we'll be getting a lot of insight, intuition, psychic impressions, and information and downloads this week. So this is an information gathering stage and a stage of surrender. It's not a time to just jump into anything all crazy. So, you know, if you have to make some sort of big thing happen, you know, do what you have to do, but, you know, be cautious and just know that it might not turn out the way that you think it will, or whatever it is might not be what it seems to be right now. And so that's part of the energy that's coming in this week. And then shortly after this new moon eclipse, like literally right after the new moon comes exact, the moon goes void, of course. And so, you know, Thursday is pretty much not a day to just jump in and do anything. And then after the eclipse happens, you have this void moon. So it's like a time, again, to go inward. When the moon is void, things tend to not work out at all. If you start something during the void moon, it tends to fizzle out very quickly and very rapidly. And it just doesn't come to fruition. It doesn't take hold once the moon comes into the next sign, because there's just not a lot of energy behind the action or the plan that you're carrying out. So it's a time for routine tasks. It's a time for introspection, creativity, that kind of thing, but not creativity in the sense of doing something physical, initiating action. And so that's, you know, Thursday is going to be kind of an interesting day. And then Friday and Saturday, we have the moon in Pisces, right? So that's, again, this Neptunian, watery, dreamy energy. The moon will come into a conjunction early in the day on Friday with Venus. So we're going to want to like melt into our partnerships. We're going to want to like connect with people on this deeper, more otherworldly, other dimensional level where we're connected, our souls are connecting with each other, right? That sort of energy, that dreamy, mystical, magical energy. I actually really love when the moon is in the sign of Pisces. Usually, right now, Neptune's opposing my sun, so it usually makes weird stuff happen. I feel very ungrounded more recently when that happens. And if you have a similar transit where you have Neptune right now squaring or in opposition to or in conjunction with any of your personal planets, you probably understand this feeling of like, things are kind of bizarre. You can't keep your feet on the ground. You know, you're dreaming and daydreaming and you're not quite here present in the moment. And, you know, so that can be amplified, especially as the moon comes into conjunction with Neptune on Friday. That'll actually happen Friday evening for everyone in general, but especially if you have, you know, any planets around 14 degrees in the mutable signs. So that's going to be in Virgo, in Pisces, or in Gemini, or in the sign of Sagittarius. That's where you're going to be feeling this sort of, and sometimes it can feel a little bit ominous. And that's sort of the energy that I'm getting this week, that ominous energy where it's like something is about to happen. There's like something about just to get started. I actually posted about this on my Facebook page and on the Astrology group, just to kind of get a feel for what other people were sensing with this and how were experiencing it. And it seems like a lot of people kind of have that same sense that something is actually about to take hold, and it feels like a little unsettling. Not necessarily that it's going to be a bad thing, but it's like we can't see what's going to happen next, but something's coming, and it's going to be maybe something big, right? But there's something going on beneath the surface, sort of in the ethers right now. It's like an otherworldly, my friend described it as like an ancestral or a ghostly energy, where there's like these other sort of entities that are at play or something that are going on, and it's sort of going on below the surface and within our awareness, though, a little bit more so than it normally would be. So it's very hard to describe an energy with Neptune. So that's the best way that I can describe what's going on. But, this is all culminating to Mars coming into square with Neptune on Saturday. And so we have an interesting combination of all this like mental energy with all of this Mercury stuff that's going on. And, Mercury being in Aquarius for the first part of the week. And Mercury will actually conjunct the Sun on Saturday as well. And then we're getting all this, it's like a lot of Neptunian and like confusing, like interdimensional, otherworldly, mystical, just strange energy, especially, the second half of the week into the weekend. And so Mars is squaring Neptune. Mars square Neptune, anytime you have a lot of this weird energy in these eclipses, and Mars, squaring Neptune, Mars is like violence, it's aggression. Neptune is like confusion, delusion, illusion, right? Deception. And it feels to me, and I would be very surprised if we get through the next couple of weeks without some sort of event, especially here in the United States, not to be like an alarmist or something like that, just because this is the type of energy that tends to manifest in like a false flag sort of event, because it's much easier to deceive people. There's a lot of illusion, there's a lot of confusion around these types of events that occur around this kind of energy. I don't know for sure that something like that would happen. I'm not like I don't do global predictions normally, but I'm just saying that, there's that energy's there. So there is that potential, especially coming into the weekend, I would say. But, Mars square Neptune makes it very difficult on an individual level for you to discern what action to take. So people are going to be doing weird stuff. Like they're going to be confused about what they should be doing. And Mars square Neptune, one of the hallmarks of this aspect, especially with Mars being in one of the fire signs in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces, is that you tend to want to take action on other people's passions, on other people's excitement. So you feel other people's motivation, you feel other people's passion for what it is that they're about to be doing. And so you start acting on their passions, and then you've come to find out a few days later or a few months later, however long it takes, that wow, I'm actually not passionate about this at all. I just did this because my friend was really excited about it, and now I hate this and I'm stuck doing it, right? I made this commitment. I jumped into this. And the other thing too is that actions that you take can sort of fizzle out because there's a lack of clarity behind what direction to go into. And that's kind of the energy going into Saturday as well. And then Mercury moves into Pisces, right? And Mercury doesn't do well in Pisces. It does really well in Aquarius. Aquarius rules like the higher mind, scientific thinking, inspiration, innovation, all of that. And Mercury going into Pisces, it's not the worst place for Mercury, but it is confusing, right? It's foggy. There's more of that Neptunian energy. And when you have Mercury in Pisces, there's a lack of clarity, especially surrounding communication. Our thoughts come in more as like visions and impressions, right? We don't think as much in language as we normally would. And so it's very difficult to convey information appropriately, to adequately convey what it is that we're experiencing and feeling. Just like I was talking about with all this Neptunian energy, it's hard to describe it because it's like impressions and feelings and sensations and visuals, and you're thinking in terms of imagery, and it's very vivid sometimes too with Mercury and Pisces. People who have Mercury and Pisces natally will tell you that it's very hard for them to communicate their thoughts because their thoughts are not in words and they're not in language. They're not logical. They just know, they just feel, they just see. And so there can be a lot of miscommunication with Mercury and Pisces because people are not going to know how to describe things. They're not going to know how to convey their language appropriately. And it just makes things really confusing when it comes to communication. But this is really good for creativity, right? Creative expression, going deep, and this is really good for creative writing and things like that too. Journaling, you'll get a lot of impressions, and writing it down is actually a really good outlet. Trying to describe it as best you can in terms of visuals and impressions and allegory, metaphor, things like that, where you're kind of going, describing something in a roundabout way, right? It's not like logical linear A, B, C, D. And so that's Saturday, that's when that starts. It's, so, it lasts a couple of weeks. So that's not just Saturday that you're going to be having this sort of Mercury issue. Brain fog is a huge issue when Mercury goes into Pisces. People's brains get much more foggy. They complain about brain fog. They complain about daydreaming, lack of focus. That's just going to increase for the next couple of weeks. And then we have the sun moving into Pisces on Sunday too. So there's so much Pisces energy. It's going to be a very Pisces week, especially at the end of the week. So that sort of otherworldly ethereal energy, that sort of sensation that there are things going on beyond this realm, that otherworldly sort of vibe that's been going on, that's just going to increase as we come into the weekend. And so yeah, the sun will be moving into Pisces, and happy birthday, Pisces, by the way, to all of my Pisces friends and followers and clients out there. So I'm going to kind of start getting into what this is going to bring on an individual level. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the eclipse, because that's sort of the big thing this week. I'll talk a little bit about the Mars square to Neptune as much as I can for each sign, and a lot of the energy that's moving into Pisces, which will be the sun, and Mercury will be moving into Pisces as well. And then we also have Venus there. I'm going to draw Venus on my little badly drawn thing so I can remember that Venus is there. I always have my really poorly drawn astrology chart wheel that I like to use, because then I can flip it around. And so I'm going to get into all 12 signs. And if you want to know more specifically how this eclipse or how the upcoming transits are going to affect you, you can always book a one-on-one astrology reading with me through my website at the link in the description below. I also do birth chart, natal chart readings. That's actually my favorite to do. I love, love, love helping people to learn more about themselves, right? That's what I really want to do for you guys, is to help you learn about yourselves and help you learn how to access your own power, right? How to access your own purpose, your own destiny, how to figure out what direction to take for yourself, right? And how to take action for yourself, and just how to know yourself better, so you know if you're in alignment with what you truly should be doing in this life, because people have a lot of confusion around that. They're always like, a lot of people come to me asking, what's my path? What's my purpose? Only you can know that specifically, but I can kind of guide you in the right direction, right? I can tell you what you need to feel good about your life, and what direction maybe you should be taking right now, and what's coming up to support you in that, or what's coming up that's going to cause you to make changes. And so, if that's something you're interested in, you can always book a reading with me at the description in the link below, or the link in the description below. Flip that around. But yeah, so I'm going to be getting into all 12 signs. And if somebody wants to post timestamps, that would be awesome. I don't know if I'll have time to do that right away, but if nobody does, I will do that at some point. So just be patient. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about Aries and Aries rising. And so for Aries and Aries rising, the point of surrender and the reset is happening in terms of your friends, your social networks, the people that you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis, the people that it could be like social networks in terms of like colleagues or, something along those lines, but usually it has more to do with friends. So, this could be new friends coming in, or really needing to let go of old friendships that are dissatisfying, that are holding you back from expressing yourself fully out in the world, where you feel judged, where you feel like you have to conform, where you feel like they're very dogmatic in their thinking, and that causes you to feel like you can't be yourself, right? You can't act the way that you want to act. You can't express yourself and communicate with them fully and truthfully, because their belief systems are holding you back and bogging you down. And so any friendship this week that feels unsatisfying, that feels confusing, that feels difficult, that feels like it's ready to go, it needs to end, this is a time when you can really make those cuts. You can really surrender those relationships in order to make space for better friendships. And a lot of really sort of past life connections can come in this week. So your soul group, people that you already know or feel like you already know from previous lifetimes or previous experiences, or even people that you actually have met physically in this lifetime too, can come in right now. So there's a lot of that energy unfolding this week too. So especially like after the middle part of this week and into next week, because this energy isn't just going to last this week, by the way. Really the culmination of this and a lot of the energy that's playing out right now will come back around in the summer of this year, especially in July and August when we have eclipses again in the signs of Leo and Aquarius. So, it's a process. When you have an eclipse, yeah, there are usually a lot of major events, especially when it's conjunct like a natal point in your chart. But it's not a one-time big thing that just happens all at once and that's it. It's a process. It usually takes a year and a half because that's how long the north and south nodes transit these areas, and that's how long you're going to be having eclipses periodically with the north node in Leo and the south node in Aquarius, right? And so all through until I think November is when the nodes switch actually into Cancer and Capricorn this year. So you're going to be feeling this the entire time on and off, especially when it's triggered. But this is a major trigger point, a major transformation point. And so for Aquarius people, you might need to be cutting cords with certain friendships that are not serving you anymore. And with Mars square Neptune, Mars is actually going to be in your ninth house. So just be careful when it comes to taking new action, when it comes to finding a new teacher, starting a new learning program, finding new philosophies that might sort of strike a chord with you. Also, travel. Don't travel because somebody else is excited about the travel. Travel because you're excited about the travel, right? There might be some confusion about travel or travel plans. Something along those lines. Also, confusion and arguments with teachers and, people in like school settings and things like that could come up as well. But there's some sort of action that you might want to take involving like publishing or higher education, higher learning, expanding and broadening your horizons through your belief systems. Also, things that are in this realm are adventure. So starting things that are adventurous. So it's experiential learning, right? Is the ninth house. Anything that you want to start in that area might fizzle out, or it might be a little confusing, and you might take sort of a weird action. So if you can hold off past the weekend, that would be better. Okay. So for Taurus and Taurus rising, that was for Aries, by the way. I don't know why I said Aquarius in the middle there. That was for Aries. Taurus and Taurus rising, you're going to be having this eclipse actually in your 10th house. And so this is a surrender and letting go of things that don't serve you in terms of your career and your public reputation. And so anything that you're doing, if you have a job that is very dissatisfying for you, this is a time when you're going to need to let go of that job and move into a new career. Let go of, relationship with bosses and authority figures that are dissatisfying, not serving any purpose, that are causing you to conform to beliefs that you don't actually want to adhere to. Looking at your integrity in that area might be helpful as well. But this is going to be letting go of old patterns, old systems, things that feel dissatisfying when it comes to your work and your career. And so that way you can move into, a space where, and this could also be because you need to focus more on your family, right? That's what you feel drawn to do. And so letting go of a dissatisfying career that takes up too much of your time so you can focus on your home, your property, your family, start that little homestead, have those kids, spend more time with your children, right? With Leo in the 5th house, if you do have children, all of that. So, letting go and then making space for, career moves that are satisfying and that, that feel good and feel comfortable to you, but still, but don't bog you down as much, right? So the focus is more about moving into this area of home and family, but right now it's about letting go and resetting in the area of your career. It could also just be letting go of a project, like a major responsibility or a major project in your career that you don't want to handle anymore. You don't want to do it. It feels unsatisfying. It's bogging you down. It's preventing you from moving on to other projects that you're more excited about. And this is going to be strongest again for people who have this at, the 27th or 26th, 27th, 28th degree, like that sort of area. That's going to be where it's going to be affected more so than the other areas of the chart, especially for Taurus people, because it's going to be in square, right? So it might be squaring your sun, moon, or rising sign if you have your sun, moon, rising at the end degrees of Taurus. And so, that's going to make it a little bit more of a personal change, especially if it's your sun. It will have to do with your career or your success, your outward, success, the way that you express yourself outwardly in the world. But, there's a change of identity and there's a change of the way that you interact and engage with the world, and a change in your relationships that goes along with that as well, especially, if you are having your Taurus sun, moon, or rising at those end degrees. And then with Mars Mars is going to be in your 8th house, so that indicates power struggles with friends, right? Because Neptune is going to be in your 11th house. So power struggles with friends, that might be very confusing. You might not actually know what's going on beneath the surface. It might be sort of like a hidden enemy situation where you don't realize that these people are working against you. And so, you act on their volition, their willpower, instead of your own will and your own passion. And so just be very wary coming into this weekend about taking new actions within friendships and with your friends, because, you might not know the whole picture, and there might be some sort of power play, some sort of manipulation going on there. For Gemini and Gemini rising, so this new moon, this partial solar eclipse is happening in your 9th house, which has to do with long distance travel, but it also has to do with your beliefs, right? That's the 9th house, is the house of your beliefs. It's about philosophy, religion, the beliefs that you gain through experience. And having Aquarius in the 11th house indicates that your beliefs can be kind of dogmatic and rigid at times. And so this is about opening yourself up to new belief systems and letting go of old belief systems that are too dogmatic, too rigid, too that cause you to act outside of your truth, your passion, your authenticity, right? So this is going to be a major change in your belief systems. This could also be ending and letting go of different educational pursuits that are not satisfying, that are not serving you. Even if you're not finished with it yet, maybe it's just time to wrap it up and let it go, right? Maybe it's just bogging you down. It's preventing you from doing the things that you truly want to do and learning the skills that are more practical, that you actually are passionate about and that you want to be doing, because you're spending so much time focusing on these higher education programs, or following these gurus, following these teachers, also false gurus, false teachers, like learning situations that are just not satisfying, not good, and that are bogging you down. That can come up for you to end and release. And Mars is actually in square from your 7th house to your 10th. And so this can indicate disputes in business partnerships, contractual agreements with your business or with your work. This could also be that there's some sort of issue or dispute with your relationship or your marriage involving work and home, and your family situation as well could be involved in this. But there is some tension and some confusion going on when it comes to your relationships, and some of that could involve your work life, your public reputation, and maybe it's that you're spending too much time at work, and you're not spending enough time with your loved ones, and it's Valentine's Day, right? So something like that could come up as well. But there's could feel like a need to take action when it comes to your love life, your partnerships, business partnerships especially, but also like romantic relationships and marriages. And the action that you take might not be quite clear. So just make sure that you're not acting on somebody else's excitement, and just make sure that you're taking the time to think things through before you act, because, acting out of confusion can only create more chaos and disruption. Okay, for Cancer and Cancer rising. So this is all happening in your 8th house. So this is about deep-seated issues. This is about power struggles, letting go of anything in your life that is disempowering you, that's causing you to feel like you don't have control over your own life and your own will, because, the 8th house is the house of power. It's power struggles. It's about where we become empowered. So this could be a very deeply empowering transit and deeply transformational transit, but it's going to require surrender. It's going to require that you surrender your fears. Your fears of being judged by other people especially would be part of this. Your fears of not being accepted by the group. Your fears of getting close with someone and getting intimate with other people, that needs to be surrendered as well. That might come up if that's something that you've been working through and dealing with in terms of your issues. Also surrendering ties to debt, right? Because debt is one of the ways that we become disempowered. We give our power away to the banks or to other people in our lives, and they hold this over our heads, and they can control us through this means, right, of holding this money over our heads. And so this is a time when if you have a lot of debt, that might come up and you might have to deal with it, right? You might have to think about how you're going to surrender and release this so you can come back into your own and come back more into alignment with your own creativity and do something that you're passionate about to create wealth and create resources and create money in the world without worrying about having to just pay off all this debt and just work a 9-to-5 job just to, get by. So, a lot of issues around debt, power, disempowerment, sex, old taboos, old hangups around sex. If that's something that you've been dealing with, in your love life, that can come up as well. But a lot of this is going to be letting go of power issues, letting go of people in your life that cause you to feel disempowered. The other things too is there could be work disputes that come up with Mars in the 6th house, or you might want to take some sort of action in your work, but it's not quite in alignment with your beliefs or your integrity. And so there's some confusion about the action that you're going to be taking when it comes to your daily routines, your health habits. There could be, even if it's like a health crisis or something like that, you might not be clear on what's causing it or what to do to remedy the situation. So, just give it a couple more days and try not to act too quickly or too impulsively because you might be acting out of confusion, right? Instead of acting out of a place of clarity. So acting out of confusion is just going to create more confusion. For Leo and Leo rising, this is occurring in your 7th house of relationships. So this is a time when you have to let go of all, and this is not just about marriage partnerships, this is not just about love relationships, this is all close personal relationships, even contractual agreements, business partnerships, relationships with clients, if you work with clients like one-on-one on a one-on-one basis, relationships that are bogging you down, that are deeply dissatisfying, they need to go, right? This is time to let go, release, move on, and focus more on what you need in relationship. Focus more on your own passions, your own self-interest, all of that. But really, this is about letting go of partnerships that are bogging you down, that feel dissatisfying. And doing that can make space so that way a new fated relationship can come in where it feels like you already know that person and it feels like you've known this person your entire life. And so it brings in this sort of fated karmic energy where you can meet people and come into these close partnerships with people where it feels like you already know them and they feel like home. And then, so Mars, so there is some action that you might want to be taking in terms of your creative self-expression, your creativity out in the world, something with your children. Maybe there's a dispute with your children that comes up or something like that. If you do have children, acting creatively, acting on your passions, acting on the things that you love to do, but there's some sort of confusion there. And there's something that's disempowering you and causing you to sort of hesitate or not quite see things clearly. And so, just moving through the weekend first before you take any action, I think would be a good idea if you do feel compelled to act on something in that area. For Virgo and Virgo rising, this eclipse is happening in your 6th house. The 6th house is all about hard work and your day-to-day routines and your health. So this could be letting go of old health problems, right? Letting go of anything that's dissatisfying when it comes to your health, your nutrition, your daily regimens and daily routines. If your routines are too monotonous in your day-to-day life, which is something that would be very disheartening for someone who has Aquarius in the 6th house, because you need freedom, you need individuality, you need your ability to sort of move with the energy and do what you want to do when you want to do it. This is a time to let go of those old rigid routines and give yourself more space and more freedom. This could also be letting go of a certain situation with your work and with your job that is deeply dissatisfying. So if you're not satisfied with your day-to-day work experience, this is a time when you could have to do something new, right? Let go so you can bring in something new. So you could be letting go of a job, or you could be letting go of a certain role in a job. You could be letting go of relationships with certain coworkers, or you might have to fire someone if you have a business or something like that. That could be part of it as well, because their work is not it's not up to par. It's not living up to your expectations. It's not satisfying in the way that it needs to be when it comes to your business. So letting go of old health problems, letting go of old ways of trying to correct your health and trying to improve your health if that's not working for you anymore. And, that way you're going to be making space. It doesn't mean that you'll have a new way of doing it right away, but you're making space so something new can come in, something more innovative, something that's more in alignment with what can truly heal you deeply from the inside out. And then for Virgo and Virgo rising, there could be disputes in the home and family, disputes in partnerships as well. It could be very confusing as to what's going on here. So, before you take action, before you jump in and start arguing, or before, you do something new when it comes to your home, your property, renovating property or something along those lines, just, take a breather this weekend and give it some space, and it'll be much more clear as we come into the following week. For Libra and Libra rising, this is happening in your 5th house. So this is letting go of old passions, old creativity, old romances, right? Old romances that are dissatisfying, that are bogging you down. Even it could be like the idea of an old romance, right? An old flame, an old fling, an old love affair that was very passionate and that you have been holding on to for years, right? Letting go of that energy, letting go of that attachment to that person or to that experience, because it's preventing you from being satisfied in your life, right? It's preventing you from having satisfying romantic relationships. Letting go of old hobbies and old interests and old passions that, you feel like you need to hold on to because you've been doing it all along and you're afraid of what your friends are going to think if you stop doing these things or whatever it is. That could be part of it as well. Letting go of aspects of, your relationships with your children or with the father of your children that are not satisfying, that are not working well anymore. All of these things can come up, so you have to release and let go and move into something new, right? So this is going to be more of a period of release. The newness sort of comes in later on, and it'll flow in once you make that space. And then for Libra rising also, you have Mars in the third house. So this could be disputes. This is like communication, like really, it could be that you have some sort of really harsh, rough communication that comes in, or it could be disputes with siblings, extended family members, neighbors, your community, different things like that. Also work disputes, especially when it comes to your coworkers and things of that nature could come up as well. And it could be very confusing as to what's going on here. So just, take your time. You'll sort it out after the weekend if that does come up, and if you are confused about what it is that's happening. Also, don't be too hasty in your communication this week, because you might not know what you're talking about even if you think you do. So that would be my other sort of word of advice and caution for Libra rising people. Okay. And then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this is happening in your fourth house of the home and the family. So you have to let go of some sort of situation with your family, with your home life, with your home environment, with your property that's not serving you anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to uproot and just leave and, leave your home behind or something like that. It could just be starting to think about it, right? Starting to release your attachment to your current living situation. So that way you can make space for something that's better, that maybe you don't see it clearly yet. You probably won't, but something better could be coming up for you in the future. And you need to let go of the attachment to what you have right now, even though it feels comfortable, right? It might feel comfortable and convenient to be in this space and to stay grounded, to stay where you are, but you're Aquarius, on the IC anyway. So you're probably used to changing it up every so often when it comes to your living situation. And that could just even be something as simple as like allowing, a renovation to happen or allowing some sort of change in your immediate home environment. It doesn't mean that you have to move or anything like that. Also letting go of old attachments to certain family dynamics that feel really comfortable, but are not serving a good purpose in your life and that feel deeply dissatisfying to you. And that could involve your relationship with like your parents, your biological family. It could also, involve your relationship with your husband, your wife, your children, all of these different things, patterns in relationships that are not helping you and not serving you. It's time to let go, so that way you can change and move into something better. You can make space for something better to unfold for you. And also letting go of ideas of the way that things need to be or should be when it comes to your home environment, right? There might be a bigger plan, a better situation that could turn up if you just let go of this rigid sort of holding on to the way that you want things to be. And then for Scorpio rising, there could be situations that come up with involving money and finances, especially money and finances is related to like your hobbies, your passions, your creativity. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you have your own business, that could come up as well. And it might feel difficult, frustrating, like you have to take action right now. But I would wait until after the weekend if it were me, which it might be because I am a Scorpio rising. Wait till after the weekend to take that action, because it's going to be unclear what the right action is to take. Even if you feel like you must do it right now, just hold off on making financial decisions until after the weekend. All right, for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your third house of communication, siblings, extended family members, community, short distance travel. This could be as simple as letting go of an attachment to an old vehicle that you need to just let go of, so you can make space for a nice new car that drives well. And you might have some sort of weird attachment to like the old vehicle that you're driving, because the third house rules cars. Or it could be letting go of dynamics and relationships with siblings where you're attached to a certain pattern or a certain way of being and relating to your siblings or your extended family, your cousins, whoever it is, or even your neighbors and your community members. You're attached to a certain way of relating to these people that is not really serving you. It's dissatisfying. If your relationship with your siblings is dissatisfying, it's time to let go of that form of that relationship. Or maybe you need to let go of that relationship completely if it's really that bad, right? So that way you can make space for something else to move into this area of your life. But it's letting go of attachments to a certain way of being, a certain way of communicating, when it comes to your siblings, when it comes to your extended family members, when it comes to your immediate surroundings, or just a way of communicating in general, or letting go of maybe there was some sort of pursuit that you initiated when it comes to learning a new skill, and you need to sort of let that go and let it fall by the wayside for a bit, or just let it go entirely, so that way you can pursue a higher pursuit of education. You can pursue skills that are more worthy of your time. And if you feel dissatisfied with the current education that you're getting or the current skills that you're learning, maybe it's time to just call it quits, right? Maybe it's time to just cut your losses and move on to something else. If that's what really feels good to you to do, that would be a time for you to do something like that. And so, yeah, letting go of, communication, things involving short distance travel. Maybe you have a bad commute to work and you need to let that go, right? So maybe you need to figure out a new way. So letting go of the way that you sort of, get to and from your place of business, because that's bogging you down. It feels really dissatisfying. It's preventing you from, pursuing something that you would rather be doing that's like higher and more adventurous, and it's preventing you from having the experiences in your life that you want to experience. So thinking about those types of things can be helpful as well. And then you have Mars in your sign, so you might be wanting to take a lot of new action right now, but it might feel very confusing as to what action to take. There could be some confusion that's coming from actually your home or your family that's preventing you from taking the right action, or that's causing you to take action that is not that is not right for you. And so, wait until after the weekend. If there's something that you really, really feel like you need to do right now, that's probably a clue that you shouldn't do it right now as we come into the weekend at least. And then after that, the energy will start to lighten up and you'll feel a little bit more clear in what it is that you need to do. And then, for the third house too, fated sort of circumstances can come up with your community members, and, with your extended family, your siblings, those types of things too. So just kind of pay attention. For everyone, pay attention to what's going on, the signs, the symbols. There's going to be a lot of sort of fated, predestined energy that comes about. And so, we're in the eclipse season, we're in fated times. So if you're getting like weird dreams or premonitions or just sensations, feelings, write it down, pay attention to it, because it's going to help to guide you in the right direction. I've had clients that tell me these like completely just amazing, incredible stories about their eclipse season experiences where they had all these different signs and synchronicities, and once they put it all together, it like led them to their soulmate, right? So if you don't pay attention to it, you don't have a chance to sort of take hold of that energy and to follow your path, to follow, your destiny. It could be right there in front of you, but your eyes might be closed, your ears might be closed, so you might not be paying attention. So pay attention right now. That's for everyone, not just Sag. All right, so for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, letting go of old ways of creating resources for yourself, or old attachments to resources or financial comforts that are not satisfying to you anymore. So if you are making money in a way that's dissatisfying, if you're dissatisfied with your current financial status, let go of the way that you're doing things right now. If you feel like you have to budget in a certain way, or do things in a certain way, or save money in a certain way, but you're not satisfied with the money that you're bringing in, or your savings, or if it's just clearly not working for you, this is a time to let go. It could be that you have to let go of a way of making money in terms of a job, right? If you have a job that's dissatisfying to you, that's not giving you enough money, this is the time to let go and to make space for something that's bigger and better, and that's going to allow new, fresh energy to flow in for you. So, you'll feel more satisfied with what comes up in the future. Aquarius on the second house cusp indicates that you might do better making money like independently, doing something that's your own, doing something maybe working over the internet with technology, those types of themes, right? Think about Aquarius and what Aquarius rules, and that's how you're going to make the most money. So letting go of things that are not working for you in terms of your finances, your financial status, this could also be something with debt, right? Because it is, in opposition to the 8th house, and it does rule money and finances. So, if stuff comes up around debt, credit card debt, student loans, whatever it is that you have, pay attention to that and, figure out how you can surrender and let go of, these attachments to your debt, or just being too attached to material possessions, that could be part of it as well. And just having to learn to practice non-attachment when it comes to your material stuff, when it comes to your material comforts in your life. And the dispute that could be kind of happening for you, this is actually from the third house of communication. There's a square from Neptune in your third house to Mars in your 12th house. 12th house is the house of hidden enemies. And with Mars in the 12th house, there could be someone who's working against you very aggressively behind the scenes, sending you bad energy, sending you, uh, sort of envy or aggression in some sort of way. And so, and it might be very unclear as to where this feeling or this sensation is coming from or who's acting against you. That might not be what's actually happening. There's other manifestations of this. This is just one manifestation of this. This could also be you wanting to take action when it comes to, something to do with a spiritual retreat or, anything involving these 12th house institutions, which involve like prisons, places that are hidden away from the world, like hospitals, rehab facilities. This could also be places like monasteries, ashrams, temples, places that are sort of hidden away from the world, places of worship. Even things like brothels, right, are ruled by the 12th house. So it could be that there's some sort of action that you need to take with these 12th house institutions, but it's confusing, foggy, and unclear how to go about taking the action that you need to take or how to get where you want to go. Maybe you want to go on this really incredible spiritual retreat and you feel like you need to book it right now. Don't book it right now. Give it a couple days. Do it next week, right? It'll still be there. It'll still exist unless there's like a deadline and you have to do it right this second and you'll miss it, but maybe you should miss it, right? So just think about that and just pay attention to what's going on there. Just to Capricorn. So Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is actually going to be affecting you personally. This is going to be strongest for the Aquarius people who are born with their sun, moon, or rising sign at 26, 27, 28 degrees in Aquarius. I mean, I would give it a wider order than that, maybe like 25 to 30 degrees. But if you have your sun, moon, and rising at the end degrees of Aquarius, especially if it's your sun, you're having your solar return with a new moon lunar eclipse, right? You might want to think about getting a solar return reading from me so you can figure out what sorts of transformation is going to be happening this year, because this is going to be a deeply, deeply transformative year for you. Lots of big changes, lots of major turning points, lots of surrender and letting go of the old to make space for the new, right? These themes that we're talking about right now are going to be coming up for you pretty much the entire year. And so really this is about letting go of an attachment to who you think that you should be out in the world. The first house represents, and the ascendant represents sort of this way that we show up in the world. It's like our persona. It's not the core of our personality. That has more to do with the sun sign, the moon sign, and some of the other placements in our chart. But the rising sign in the first house is more how we've learned through our early childhood experience to act and behave in the world, because that's what was deemed appropriate, or that's what was necessary in order to navigate that experience. And so we take on this persona, we take on this self-image, and we portray that out in the world, even though that's not truly us. And so with Aquarius rising people, having to force your independence, force this sort of eccentric, open-minded sort of energy, when maybe this isn't in alignment with who you truly are. Or maybe you need to let go of just your attachment to your individuality, your attachment to this need for freedom and rebelliousness. Maybe you're being overly rebellious just for rebellion's sake, and you need to let go of that, letting go of your self-image to a certain extent, so that way you can move into a persona, a personality, a way of portraying yourself out in the world that is more in alignment with who you are truly deeply on the inside. So you're more coherent and more congruent moving forward. So surrendering these attachments, and surrendering an attachment to caring about what other people think too, because even though Aquarius is very rebellious and they're thought to be this very open-minded sign, they're also very attached to the hive mind. And so that's why they come across as this like sort of voyeuristic, detached personality, where they're very friendly and, they like to be around a lot of people. People like to be around them. They're very cool people. And when I say cool, they're like very cool, like super, like cool, and like nothing phases them kind of energy, because they don't want you to see what's going on beneath the surface, right? They want to figure everybody else out, but they don't want you to figure them out on that deeper level. And so maybe letting go of some of that detachment, some of that sort of energy, and opening up your heart to connect with other people more truthfully and more fully. That could be part of that energy too. This could also bring in really faded, very karmic relationships, even past life relationships. But relationships probably more so that you feel really drawn to and you feel really obsessed with this person, like you're meant to be with them, like this is your destiny. That type of energy can come up during this time period as well. Also new developments in old relationships where it feels like this is fate and this was supposed to happen in this way. That can come up right now too, but you have to let go of an attachment to the attachment to who you think that you are out in the world, to really bond yourself more truly and fully in your relationships, and to share your heart more vulnerably in your relationships as well. And then the Mars energy for you is happening in your 11th house. So there could be some sort of action that you want to take with your social groups, your friend groups, involving social networks, or maybe some sort of charity or humanitarian pursuit. And it just might not be clear how you're going to be able to like afford to do this. And so if that's the case, just hold off. You don't have to make the decision this weekend. You don't have to take action this weekend. It'll become more clear after you let this energy pass. So, just be aware of that as well. Okay. Finally, for Pisces and Pisces rising, all of this energy is in your 12th house. So this is like major endings, major upheavals, major letting go for you this week. And a lot of new beginnings too, because a lot of the energy is shifting into Pisces. So this will be a time when you have to surrender a lot of your old patterns, your old conditioning, your old conditioned ways of behaving and acting out in the world, letting go of, just deep-seated issues. You're going to probably be having like, Pisces people will be having like the weird dreams, the weird premonitions. Pay attention to that because that's showing you what you need to let go of in order to move forward. It's also showing you what you're moving into and who you're becoming. And so Pisces people in particular are going to be having like a lot of weird sort of ethereal strangeness, like otherworldly vibes going on where it's not quite clear what's going on, but something's happening, right? And so it's just going to be a lot of strange energy for Pisces, but there is going to be a lot of potential for new beginnings. The sun's moving into your sign. Venus is moving into your sign. Mercury is moving into your sign. And so even though there's a fogginess and a confusion and a lot of surrender, a lot of endings going on for Pisces right now, there's also this sense that there's something new coming in, and that something new is going to be more beautiful, more harmonious. It's going to be more in alignment with who you truly are and what your purpose is in this lifetime. And so, if you're having a weird time with this, just hang tight, because after this week, it'll start to make more sense. You'll have these new beginnings coming in much more quickly than some of the other signs, and you'll feel sort of refreshed and rejuvenated and replenished when the sun moves into your sign. It's like you're illuminated, your energy, your vitality comes back, your clarity comes back with Mercury and the sun moving into this space for you. And with, Venus moving in there as well, you come back into your own in terms of your balance, your equilibrium. And so this could actually be a nice time for Pisces, especially toward the end of the week. You'll start to feel that energy coming in. There could be some disputes involving, or some sort of like need to take action when it comes to long distance travel. Or sorry, wait, no, that's not correct. When it comes to your work and your career, your public reputation, but it's confusing, and you're confused about how you can align your work or your career with who you are and what you love and your creativity and this like nurturing, like empathetic, sort of compassionate energy that you have. So lining up your career with your integrity and with your passions and with your compassion. And there's some sort of need to take action in this area to align yourself better with your integrity, to align your career better with what it is that you want to be doing out in the world. Or maybe it could just be that there's an important project that you need to push through and it's completely unclear as to how to make that happen. And if you can take a break, if you can sort of wait it out, I would say, wait until after the weekend to jump into that. All right, so that is all 12 signs. So we did Aries through Pisces, and I hope that you found this helpful. It is going to be, another one of those synchronous, sort of faded, sort of strange weeks, but, that it's going to help to guide you in the right direction. Whatever you're letting go of this week, just know, even if there's not something that's coming in right away, there will be, right? You're making spaces. It's a process of surrendering things that you are not satisfied with in order to make space so the right things can come in on their own accord. And so lots of sort of faded karmic occurrences, a lot of past life energy and energy from the past coming in this week too. So a lot of familiar energy where it feels vaguely familiar in a way that you can't describe or articulate properly. That could be part of the energy that comes up as well. So it's going to be an interesting week. strange week, but an interesting week. And I hope that this was helpful to guide you through it. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I love reading your comments and responding to them. If you have questions, you can also email me. My email address is in the description below, or jump on my Facebook page, ask questions on there, whatever it is that you want to do. I like answering your questions. So and I like connecting with all of you in real life because it feels kind of, it's very Aquarian doing this where I'm like detached. I'm like over here on this screen and I'm not actually communicating with you in real life. I'm used to teaching in real life, and getting on YouTube has been just a very bizarre experience. I'm like talking to myself right now, right? It's kind of weird. So connect with me. I want to talk to you in real life. And I hope that you have a beautiful week. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.